friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a follow-up to my unofficial, official bringing back of my makeup on the chopping block series. I had recently amassed a bunch of makeup that I decided to declutter from my collection, and then I had a pocket of makeup that I wanted to more heavily scrutinize. And as I was going through that process, I realized I had made decisions about a lot of the products, and I also had another pocket of products I wanted to document my exploration with. So I thought I would go ahead and share it with you. I will start first with the items that I talked about in my last video and give you my status update on whether or not they are staying or going. So we'll go ahead and start with the bronzer that I had brought in. So I had recently bought into the hype of the e.l.f. Putty bronzers. I had the shade Feeling Shady, and then I also had the shade Tan Lines. And for all intents and purposes, when they were on the website, I felt like they looked really similar, but getting them in person, I realized that Feeling Shady is much more of a cooler type of shade, more along the contour lines, and Tan Lines is more of a warmer bronzer shade. I'm kind of halvesies on this, which is not very decisive for decision-making purposes, but let me explain. I have come to find that I prefer Feeling Shady. I think I just prefer the contour bronzer type of effect that I get from this a bit more than I get from Tan Lines, but I ultimately really feel like my skin either sucks this up or that this fades away over the course of a day. Like, I've had my makeup on for at least 5 hours at this point, and I feel like you can maybe see a little bit of it left here, but it's not nearly as fresh and crisp as it was when the day started. And I feel like, especially wearing a mask most of the day, which is what I do right now because I'm teaching and we wear masks while teaching at this point, it really doesn't hold up over the course of the day. I am not going to get rid of them because my bronzer collection is so small and I do feel like I could go either way any day with them, but I am looking for recommendations for really decent cream bronzers. I'm willing to pay more of a prestige Sephora price. I don't necessarily need to stick in the e.l.f. ballpark, but I really think that I've learned from the Putty bronzer that I like a cream bronzer. I would never probably have purchased one had these not gotten so much hype, but I really think I like the look of it on my skin, especially this time of year. Unlike a lot of other people, I'm somebody who I think prefers creamier products in the winter months because my skin just starts to look dull and a bit drier. I mean, it is so dry in the New England area in the winter that I feel like it helps keep my whole face looking more alive. So fun. So I would be curious to get something better than these, and I feel like if I had that, I would easily part with them. But since I have nothing else currently in my collection and nothing really on my purview, because this is a whole new world of bronzer for me, I'll let these stick around, but they're not like tried and true favorites that I'm like, these are magical, I'm so glad I have them. But it has helped me dip my foot into the cream bronzer pond, and I would like to swim around with something better. So if you've got anything, let me know. The next item I wanted to focus on was a highlighter. This is the Wet n Wild's Light Up My Hibiscus, multi-stick highlighter stick. This is just no longer my jam. This is basically at the height of rose gold. I feel like when NARS, when their Orgasm Blush was just really at its peak, this came out and I think I was really into it at the time. But now, reflecting on my makeup preferences, I don't love glittery based products. I like to look shiny and lit, but not coming from noticeable glitter. And I just feel like as a blush, I don't like it. And as a highlighter, I don't love it because it's too shimmery for me. So it no longer really has a place in my collection, which is fine because this product is huge and it would have taken me forever to use it up anyways. And it's on the older side. So it's not a really love loss thing. I did use it a bunch when I first got it, but it's just no longer a part of my personal preferences. The last element of my chopping block from the last time that I wanted to talk about was what I had inside this ColourPop magnetic palette. It was a real smorgasbord of different face products that I had put in here. what I currently have remaining in here is what I am choosing to keep. So in the end, I got rid of half the products that were in here, and I'll show you what those other half were in a moment. So the first thing I decided to keep was my ColourPop S'il vous Plaît highlighter that I got as a single. I actually didn't think at first I would really like this, and when I feel like I swatch it, you don't get a whole lot of punch, but it really is lovely on the cheeks. It's one of those highlighters that is not super metallic, but it has a real presence on the face in a more subtle, glowy, dare I say, natural type of way. I think it's really complimentary on my pale complexion. So this was surprising. I was ready to dislike this after swatching it, but with a brush, it just picks up the right amount of product. It lasts all day. I'm a real fan. The other thing I decided to keep was this Lorac highlighter that I popped out of a fall like rose palette. I don't quite remember what the name of it was. I've come to realize I really don't have this pinky type of highlighter in my highlighter collection. Again, it's similar to S'il vous Plaît, where I think you look at it and you're like, ooh, it's not super in your face. But again, it's subtle and really beautiful, which I love the effect of on my skin. And I just don't have a lot like this. So while I don't need a surplus of highlighters, I do like that I found that these were two lovely discoveries. I also have opted to keep 2 out of the 5 Tarte blushes that came in that little clutch purse holiday collection. I've opted to keep Breathless and Embraced. I don't know what it is. I have the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani collaboration blush palette, and there is a blush kind of like this in the palette where I feel like I wouldn't normally be like, oh, I really want that color, but there's something about this like tan shade that has almost like a nude rose effect on my skin that looks really lovely. So I decided to go ahead and opt to keep this, and then Embraced actually gives me similar vibes. It's a little bit more maroony, but it gives me similar vibes on the cheek to Benefit Rockateur, which you guys know if you follow my really sad lack of updates for this year, Project Pan. I've been trying to pan that blush for going on my 2nd year now, and I feel like this on my cheeks has a similar vibe. They no longer, unbeknownst to me, I just recently learned, they no longer make Benefit Rockateur. So sad. So I feel like I'm okay keeping this because no matter what, as of December, if that is not used up, it's out of my collection because it's super, super old. And I feel like this can be a decent replacement for it. So I'm really happy to keep these, and I feel really good that I've basically cut that in half. It wasn't my goal going into it to cut it in half. I was open to seeing what I actually liked. But upon playing with the various items that were in the palette, I found that I only really liked half of what was in here. Now that we've talked about what I'm keeping, let me just go through what I chose to not keep from that palette. So the first thing that I had was from Sydney Grace. It was this blush in First Date. This is a really intense, like peach, very metallic peach type of blush. I just don't love the effect of this type of blush on my cheeks. I don't love a really aggressive sheen or a really metallic type of look on my cheeks for blush. I prefer really more of a matte blush, maybe a slight subtle shimmer, but this is not subtle, and I just don't think I would gravitate to this tone. I do have a blush like this that is a matte version that I think I'm much more likely to use. So while the formulation of this is stunning, I would not want to keep it. The other 3 come from Tarte, and basically I either don't like the tone or I feel like I have that color already in a other packaging that I just prefer instead. So I'm parting with Whimsy, which is a really pink blush, definitely more pink than I typically go for. I'm also getting rid of Bashful because again, it might not look it in the pan, but it's quite shimmery on the cheeks, not my jam. And then lastly, I'm saying goodbye to Irreplaceable. I just have this a few times over in my blush collection, and I prefer to pull out a single compact versus an actual magnetic palette. So I probably would not go for that one very often, hence why it has no real need to be in my collection anymore. Okay, we have quite a gambit of items that I am reconsidering and scrutinizing on the shopping block. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through them. I have a few eye products first. So I've got this Tarte waterproof shadow stick in the shade Sage. This has made it through so many declutters because I like the idea theoretically in my head of having a base color like this. If I'm being honest with myself, I've pushed myself, as you can see today, for example, to use more green-esque type colors, but I never think to lay this base product down or even to use this as a standalone shadow stick, which is what it's meant for. So I want to actually put it in the project to actually try out because I haven't given this a fair enough shot to see if I like the effect of it. And if I do, I could see myself being able to work it in more often. But if I don't actually like the effect of it, it needs to go. It's the last shadow stick of its kind in my collection. I've decluttered most of the ones from this little set that I bought because they just don't really align with my preferred makeup application preferences, but who knows, perhaps this will be vastly different. I also have two brown pencil eyeliners. I'm at a place with my liners, which is really exciting, where I don't have a mass surplus. Over the course of this year, I finally was able to make some serious headway, and now I have just a handful left. And I've come to realize that I have a bunch of browns and I don't really go for brown that often, not enough certainly to need all of these brown pencils. So I want to see if I can essentially choose one or neither of them to keep in my collection. The first one comes from Julep. It's the Gel Eye Glider in Smoky Taupe Shimmer. This I feel like is a really pretty color, but I don't know overshadow if it could actually stand out because it is not a straight dark chocolate or true chocolate color. As it's named, it is taupe. So I just want to be able to test it and see if when I do pull for a brown, would this be able to hold up? If not, I don't need to keep it in my collection. I have used a full size one of these before. They're not easy to get through, but they're definitely feasible. The second one that I have is from Sephora. It's their Crayon Contour Eye Pencil, 12-hour wear. It's waterproof and it's in the shade Cocoa. So this one, as you can see, it is much darker, much more prominent. So I wonder if this will hold up as dark and vibrant as other browns that I've tried. I've been favoring my House Laboratories brown eyeliner. It's a lovely brown eyeliner, and I also just generally prefer liquid. But I've held on to pencils because when I felt like panning something or when I want to really make a use of something, I can get through these and it feels good to use what I have versus buying something else. But like I said, I don't reach for brown that often. It's like maybe once every 10 makeup looks, I'm bringing in a brown liner. And so I just don't need to have these two. I want to make a decision and be able to then either get rid of both or just keep one. We'll see how it goes. We're now going to move into face products that I want to scrutinize. The first is a foundation. Last fall, I really saw a boom in my foundation collection. I was going through this process where I was trying to find either a decent shade or the right complexion product. Plus, there were a lot of products being released that had interested me, either because I saw good reviews on YouTube or they just caught my eye. And one of them was the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk. I have the shade 510, which is porcelain. I only wore this once last year, and it was in, I want to say, the tail end of August or September. So it was a relatively muggy time of year, and it was awful. I wanted to like claw at my skin, not because it was itchy, but because it felt like it was just not setting. Like it felt as though it were basically still very wet, always on my face, and it felt like it was just running down my face. I did not enjoy the experience. And you'd be saying to yourself, like, why didn't you get rid of it right then and there? And the reason I didn't is because I thought to myself, maybe if I wore this in a drier part of the year, I would be able to actually appreciate the hydrating properties of this. I know a lot of people, I think, were drawn to this in the summer because, again, similar to cream products, they like the idea of something dewy looking, but for the climate I live in, the muggy weather, it does not help that you just naturally are always dewy because the air is so just heavy and damp out. So I want to be able to put this in here because I have noticed, and I don't know if it's entirely weather related or if it's also pregnancy related, my face is starting to get drier than it normally does this time of year. And I'm already starting to notice that my skin sometimes looks a little bit dull. So I'm not sure if this will be able to combat that. If I still don't like the feel of it on my face, it's out of here, but I want to bring it in and try it because right now I'm just going for my too expensive go-to YSL foundation. And I can't keep living a life where that's the only foundation I want to buy and use because it's super pricey. And when I'm really using it, it can go really fast. So I want to see if this is comparable, if I like the effect of it in the winter time to give me just more foundation options. Speaking of foundation options, I have two from Honest Beauty. So I was recently at my local Walgreens getting my booster shot for the COVID Pfizer vaccine. And as I was killing some time after getting my shot to make sure I didn't have a reaction, I came across the clearance section of the cosmetics, and I don't know what's going on, if they're just no longer gonna carry Honest Beauty or if Honest Beauty is going through a revamp, but all of the Honest Beauty products were discounted to $2.50 each. And I'm someone who, I've heard a lot about Honest Beauty. I've never really dipped into the products because they just haven't really caught my eye, / the price point is a little bit higher than I'm willing to sometimes spend on random cosmetics I've never tried before. But at the $2.50 price tag, I was much more intrigued. So I ended up pulling the Everything Cream Foundation, and at the Walgreens, I couldn't decide what shade I was, so I picked up two. I grabbed the shade Cream, which looks like this. And I'm not sure like in this lighting if it really is a match for me. I also have Snow, which looks like this. And again, I'm not sure if in the lighting this looks like it's really a match for me either. But when I swatch them, you can see here what they look like side by side. When I swatched them, they seemed really similar in their ability to match my skin. And I'm not even sure if I consider myself a real cream product foundation person, but I want to try them. And because they're so new, I want to figure them out now. That way it's not a year later and I'm still being plagued by these particular products. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get myself to experiment with this again to get away from my beloved YSL that I've been going for every single day. And by putting it in this particular chopping block, it'll get me to feel more inclined to go out of my comfort zone and try these and not feel like I'm just wasting what could be a great makeup day by actually having a purpose to try them out. In that same vein, I also grabbed two of their blushes. I grabbed Rose Pink and Peony Pink. And again, I wouldn't consider myself a big cream blush person, but these shades looked super pretty. This is Rose Pink right here. I just think it's a really gorgeous color. And again, with my skin looking a little bit drier, I feel like it might look a bit fresher if I'm using cream products in these dry times. And this one is Peony Pink. Really gorgeous. I have no idea. I feel like I've heard about Honest blushes. I can't remember if I heard about their cream or their powder, if they even have a powder, but I couldn't remember. So I figured I would just snag these two shades and again, try them out, see if I like them better than what I currently have in any powder form. These are not unusual colors to my collection. I have a lot in this realm. So I'm just curious to see if texturally these are better or I just like them as well and want to add them to my collection. I figured to get them while I was at Walgreens for less than $10 to try out 4 Honest Beauty products. Not a bad deal. Another product that I want to test out is also a blush product, and it is relatively new to me, but unlike being a cream, it's a liquid. I don't think I have any other liquid blushes in my collection. It came as a sample from Sephora. It's from Rare Beauty. It's the Adore blush. I feel like Rare Beauty got a ton of coverage on YouTube when it first came out. And sometimes when that happens with a brand, it kind of puts me off. I felt that way about Fenty for a while. Like I felt like Fenty was everywhere at first. Granted, they're great, they're lovely. I have some of their products and I really like them, but I just didn't want to try them at first because there was so much hype that I kind of was like, I'm a little over it. So getting a sample, I was really pleased, but I don't know, one, if I'm gonna like this color, and two, if I'm gonna like dealing with a liquid like this. I'll be really curious to see how it goes. I do my face products after I do my eyes, and so for me, sometimes I'm a little less hesitant to play or explore if I'm like headed to school, for example, because I know that if I screw up that part of it, I basically have to start all over, which is a real big nuisance. So I'm hoping by bringing this in, I'll actually get myself to test it out and make a decision on whether or not, one, it's a color I like, a formula I like, if I'm gonna wanna actually use up the whole thing. So I'll be curious to find out my own take on this, because the lip product that I got in this little sample duo didn't like the color of it on my face, so it didn't linger very long. So I'm hoping that if I don't like this, I can get rid of it and know that I don't have extra product, or if it's amazing, I can start to use it. Okay, we now come to the most involved part of my chopping block, which are gold highlighters. I need to take myself to task here and have an honest look at the highlighters that are the bulk of my collection that are all gold. I just know in my heart of heart, I do not need this many gold highlighters. And the experience of each one can't be so unique as to justify sticking around in my collection. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through all the golds that I'm looking at. I'll give you a quick swatch of each one. And again, my hope is to just really scrutinize and figure out which ones are the ones that deserve a place in my highlighter collection, because I just can't have this many golds. I'll never get through them. It's just insane. Can't do it, won't do it. So let's go on the journey together. The first one I have, I entirely admit I purchased because of the packaging. This was the Clinique Cheek Pop Highlighter, the Gold Celebration Pop. This was for the Year of the Rat. I can't. I love the embossing of this. This is what it looks like here. I do think it's really gorgeous. I am a sucker for gold. It's so funny. I would argue that I'm more of a cool toned eyeshadow person, but I love a gold highlighter. It doesn't really work hand in hand. So this is the first one that we're looking at. We'll see if it stays. Secretly, I'm rooting for it, but I don't really know yet. The second one has been a favorite, one that's been favored. It's from Lancome. It is the Glow Subtle Silky Cream Highlighter in Glowing Lights. This has been in a project pan. I really do like the putty texture of this. And you can see like swatch side by side. This is more from Clinique, a really pale gold, and this one is more of a true like metallic-y type of gold. So like I said, I'm willing to keep ones that are truly different, but I can't imagine the next 5 that I'm going to show you are all uniquely different the way those two are from each other. Number 3 in this category is from Laura Geller. It is the Baked Gelato Swirl in Gilded Honey, an oldie, but a goodie. I definitely have gotten use out of this. Oh, I mean, here we're already starting the process. I'm like, but this one's different. This one's more coppery than this one, and then this one. On your cheeks, they cannot look that different from each other. Like, I'm not getting drastically different gold eye looks where I need to have these, but it's gonna be hard for me. I know it's gonna be hard, but it's gotta happen. Another one that I go to quite often is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Highlighting Powder in Precious Petals. This one, you can see my usage over here. I often turn to this one. I do think it's really pretty. I've got it down here. But again, comparing it to Gilded Honey, I don't think they're that different. So I just gotta like make a choice and go with it. Then we have probably my least used gold, which is from Jouer. It's the Citrine Powder Highlighter that they have. This, I put it in the gold category, but it has definitely more of a, I don't know, like orangey vibe to it. Oh God, it's so pretty. So pretty. I've got it down here. Oh yeah. Woo! Just look at that. Like my hand right now, so good. And I just feel like with my ginger locks in my face, like, I was born for a gold highlight. You would think that would mean I would like warm eyeshadow more, but I just don't really prefer that. Gold, I like gold, but don't lean too warm and it doesn't, So good. Final two come from Becca. These are both Born and Bred from Jaclyn Hill. I have from her Champagne Pop and Prosecco Pop. I'll go ahead and swatch these. Oh, yeah, Champagne Pop. Like I just forget about Champagne Pop and how glorious it is as a gold. Oh, that's so nice. And then Prosecco Pop. I will say, I don't feel like this one, I just bought into the hype with this one. I'm not sure how vital it was in my life. So I won't be surprised if Prosecco Pop doesn't live to tell the tale, but these are what we're working with. Like I said, like when you look at them on my hand, I can, in some regard, pick up differences, but overall they read really similar. So I cannot justify keeping all of them. I have enough gold highlight to highlight a village of people for years, and I just don't need to do that. It's not gonna happen. So I wanna be very scrutinous with this. It'll also get me to do more golden eye looks while I am going through this process, which is important to do because like I mentioned earlier, gold eye looks are not my go-to looks these days. And so it's not like I'm pulling these out every single day to use to begin with. So at that volume and for that level of frequency of use, they will never, ever get true love. And so I want to just have a more curated, actual realistic, can reach for all the time kind of gold highlighter collection. So we'll see. Okay, so there you have it. A ton of products that I want to scrutinize. I definitely don't think I will be able to compile all of my thoughts for the next round. I'll probably like get half of them figured out and then come back and chat with you guys and try not to add anything else new. It does seem to me that this time of year, I tend to catch the chopping block bug because I realize the end of the year is in sight. I like to kind of refresh my collection or scrutinize my collection a bit more and really make sure going into the fresh year that I've got what feels like the best of the best products. So I think definitely this will be a good purge and confirmation of what I like versus what I don't like. So I'm looking forward to making some decisions and sharing my thoughts with you. As always, if you've tried any of these products, especially the Honest Beauty products, or if you know why my Walgreens would have heavily discounted those Honest Beauty products, I'd love to know because I just was unaware of what was going on with them. Great deals for me, but also a little bit curious about what was happening. I so appreciate you being here. I'll talk to you in my next video real soon. Bye.